Today we're going to have a look at this job that's come into me, and I was going to show you this last week, but I got a bit tied up with some other jobs and I couldn't get to it. And I wanted to show it to you because it's something that a client has brought in, and there are issues. They've had this done at a professional framer less than 2 years ago. If that person's watching and this is their job, then just don't tell me. But we'll have a little look at a couple of the issues that are going on with it. And they brought it in primarily to fix this drum head that has fallen down off the matting. So really it's a signed edition. I will pick it up a little bit, but I just want to be a little bit careful at the moment because we are going to have to pick it up to turn it over. But the signatures are just in gold and silver pens, and they've written it on top of one of these snare drums, the drum head, and it's a signed limited edition, or at least it's a signed limited edition Blink 182 poster saying 20 years there. So this must be one of the tours, and the guy's a mad fan. It's fallen down, and what's happened is he'd taken it off the wall and just put it away. And his partner, he was upset because it had cost quite a lot of money in the past. His partner had bought this for him and had paid for the framing, and then of course when it fell down, now it's his birthday coming up again, and she wanted to fix it up so that it can go back up on the wall, but she was too embarrassed to take it back to the other framer. So we've got a few things going on. I can see there we've got Tony, Robert, Wayne, JB, Maurizio and Lee. That's great to welcome you onto the live. And also there'll be a lot of people catching this at different times purely because we've got of the time difference. We've had a couple of questions in on our brief survey that we put in there. One was from Nicole. I'll just address that right up front so that we're okay with where we are with Nicole. Nicole was asking about shadow box framing and putting a jersey into a shadow box. Not so much putting the whole jersey, but having it folded up, and what you do with the bits that are folded up and how do you fix it. Well, really, Nicole, we would just stretch that over normally a piece of foam board that would be the internal piece and try to tuck those pieces in and then sew it. What you can do is you can also have that bulky area. You can cut a hole in the mat board that's underneath the jersey and build a little box so that that drops down into a box. So even if you've got a backing, think of it like you'd cut a mat board, but the window would be underneath the jersey itself, where you've folded it up. You said you had to fold it and just show certain parts. Well, that make a little window, a little bit like what's happening with this drum kit, where there is a hole to allow that to sit. But if we had the jersey sitting on top of the window, you could put that excess jersey in underneath and you could pin and stitch it into the frame. So hopefully that gets that one out of the way. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for letting me know. Sometimes it's hard to know what's going on the other side when we're going live, because there's so many variables that can go wrong, and sound is one of them. Even though I can see the sound meter and we've got wireless mics and things, sometimes things don't work. So I've got to hold this up and we'll have a little bit of a look actually with, I think you can probably get it on the camera there, but what it is, and we've got a bit of glare there. Just hold it to try and get it out of the glare. There we go. So in here is this drum head, and it had actually fallen down that way, but this hangs portrait. And here is the poster, and so the poster's flush up on the glass, and the drum head is down at the back. Now, the first thing, even before I turn it over, I'm going to put it up on the close-up cam. Now, I was having a bit of issue with this before, so if we cut out, please just hang on and I'll bring us back on the other camera. But I just want to see if I can zoom in and show you these issues just on this bit before we even turn it over. So what we have, let's have a look. How do we go? Ah, cool. Okay, a little bit of interference on that one, but we'll have a little bit of a look up. Hopefully we don't drop out here. Don't know why this one's, we've got a little bit of issue with this camera today. But just in under here, can you see how I can even just push that glass there? Now, we lost that camera. I think we're not going to be right with our I don't think it likes our little close-up cam, but what I'll do, we'll try again a little bit later on. Sometimes it's just the feed itself. But what I can see is, I can see the actual edge of the glass under the rebate here. So this is actually really like very saggy. It's sort of held in a weird way. So that was the first thing I just wanted to show you. But I also want to turn it over and show you the back, because whoever's finished the back of this off has just done an abysmal job. And we haven't really looked much at deframing yet with Framers Club, but taking something out of a frame is pretty important as well. Like, there's a lot of times where you might have to take something out of a frame. Now, the back of this frame, like, there is bits of tape going everywhere. I think you can see how rough that is. Like, up in on the corners here, I mean, there are, you know, I'll bring it up to this camera. There are multiple layers of tape here that are just roughly torn, roughly cut. When you look at this, when you look down that is so rough and bumpy, and there's lumps and things. Like, this is a professional frame. Look, we got all stuff in there now. There's bits and pieces that have got in, probably cockroaches and bits and stuff, because they've had to put it away in the you know, they put it away in the cupboard somewhere because they were just so embarrassed. But normally the frame is taped to keep the bugs and stuff out. Well, the bugs have got into this. Like, there's some ants. I think it's actually ants stuck on the sticky tape there. Now, first of all, that's why I hadn't even touched this. All I do is I had a quick look at the back of it, and I thought, oh, this is great, because we'll go through this. There's probably a minefield of things that are wrong here. We may not get it all finished, but the important thing that I wanted to get through was getting it out and having a look what they've done here and what they shouldn't have done. Have a little look at how we would fit the drum head to the backing board, because what they've done here, I think, is just glued it, or they've just... Now, that's fine from the point of view of someone's trying to make money here, and they're just, you know, if that was a bulk job, you know, you often see this memorabilia that isn't really valuable or anything. But this, he actually went and got it signed, and then went and got the... So the framer should have taken a little bit more care with how they mounted the piece, because it's just, I think they've just glued it with double-sided tape or something like that. Anyway, we'll dive right in. We're just going to get the D-rings off. They've put a couple of double D-rings, which is not an issue. The D-rings are fine on here. It looks quite secure. Oh, we're down on charge on that one. That'll be right. So we'll get into it, and we're going to have a little look at what is going on under this tape, because it's pretty bad. Like, just from my perspective there, it just, you know, anything that looks rough on the back usually uncovers more things that are rough underneath. And all I'm going to do is just take this off. I've got to just start taking it off, because it's mucky. It's multiple layers of tape. Now, sometimes you've got to be a little bit careful when you're taking things off, but this is going to have a new backing. And actually, I can see straight away, they've put some clips. You can see the clips that are under here. So no wonder it's just roughly falling apart. I don't know why there's a piece of tape here. Maybe they split the backing. Okay, so they couldn't afford to put, or in fact, that backing board is a piece of mat board. Right, they haven't even put a proper backing on. It's a piece of mat board, and obviously they didn't have a large enough bit, so they just joined it with a piece of tape across the middle there. I don't even want to go into what's inside the tape here, because there are a lot of ants and things, and just muck, general muck. We're going to get rid of all this. I mean, I'm surprised that that's actually coming off so easily, but it's pretty rough. So, just inside here, this stuff here, it hasn't kept much out because all this muck and bits and pieces, all the dust is just inside on the tape. Now that's just, for a new job, or a job that's not that old, that's just terrible. Now, the next thing, I guess these clips, there's not really a problem in using these clips. What they've done is they've put some of these metal step-off type Z clips to hold it in place, but this, look at how loose that is. That just moves around inside there, and this doesn't even contact. It's almost as if they meant to put a foam board on there. Well, I think they might have meant to put a foam board on there, and they just either forgot or they didn't have any, and they just thought, well, we'll just tape over it. So that's terrible from the start. And in fact, I will actually keep these because these clips will work. They just need to be repositioned so that they hold the thing firmly, and they need to be repositioned with a decent backing. Now we might have to replace whatever they've done here with this bit. I don't know. We'll have a look very shortly. Just whiz around and get all these clips off so we can get inside it. Well, at least there's not sort of skew nails or something going on in here. It's going to be relatively easy. In fact, something I find, if you are using this type of clip, you don't need to be taping over the clip itself. Rather do the taping first and then put the clip on top. Just a structural type thing. So we whiz this end off. Cool, thanks guys. So yeah, just at least this part, and what they've done is okay, but I say there's a huge gap here as well, which is something that would concern me. Like whenever you're making a deep box, or even if you're stacking mat boards together, it's vital that at the edge of the board there, that whatever's underneath is all the same level. And these edges, we're going to lift it up. I'm assuming sometimes when you're deframing something, you really want to be doing it face up so that you can take the work out and see what's going on. But I think here the drum head is sitting straight on the glass. I'll have a little bit of a look. No, it's actually stuck onto under the rebate, but here it is. Okay. So at least we have one drum head, and I can see immediately what they've done to put it on. And it's not bad. They haven't done anything too bad. It's just, it probably is not a suitable treatment, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So on the back here, oh wow, this just is hilarious. So on the back here, they've just put, that's a strip of mat board. Here's another strip of mat board, bit of double-sided tape on there. And that's kind of, you know, some flimsy bit of budget board they've just put on the back. Not very good. And then here's all this foam board. So again, foam board, there's a join here. Right, so they might have thought, in fact I think what they thought is they put the foam board on, they didn't have a big enough bit, they had a join, and then some bright spark thought they'd go and get a bit of mat board, same person who put this on, and thought, I know what, I'll cover that join with a bit of mat board. And then after they put got the bit of mat board, they realised the mat board wasn't big enough either, so they put another strip, you know, just bit crazy. Now this is what sort of concerns me here, just from a construction point of view, apart from whatever else is going on. I'll hold it up close so that you can see what I mean about uneven. So on this edge, you can see here, this is the front board, and what we've got here is multiple layers of foam that they've used to space it, but can you see how each layer is not flush with the edge of the board? So this is a recipe for disaster. If you were going to do something like this where you're going to have multiple layers, you'd at least have them flush with the outside edge of the board so that there's not this kind of rough gap. And you can see here's more of these little ants and stuff that have got in because the tape just wasn't on very well. And it looks like this didn't fit very well. Like this is a telltale sign of it didn't fit. We've got this rough cutting, like, I mean, just down this edge. If you look down this edge here, all they've done is they've just gone, it looks like someone's hacked at it, or hacked at it from the front. You know, there's a rough bit cut here, there's a huge scallop just out of here. So that whole edge is just so rough. In fact, the whole thing's really rough. That end, they sort of lined up. This end's all bits and pieces. Now the thing is, we could go into a whole lot of work to repair the entire setup of this this layering. I'm probably not going to. I just want to see if we could get into there without doing too much damage. Yeah, so I think what's going to end up happening here, I'm going to end up making a wooden frame for this, just so that we can actually fit the thing. Because on there they've used framers tape and they've hinged this poster, but on the bottom here, what they'd done, and I thought it was double-sided tape. When I first saw it, I thought it was double-sided tape that they used to hold the drum head in place. But what they've actually used is silicone. So they've taken a piece of silicone. We'll have a little look on the drum head itself, which is not very heavy. So if I hold this up for you, maybe you can see it here. There is a little line of silicone just inside the drum head here. There's a little bit here, and you can see there's a black patch there. That's where the mat board has torn. So I suspect it's either fallen off the wall, it's had a knock of some sort, because that silicone's just given way. In fact, it's not silicone, sorry. I thought it was silicone. It's hot glue. It's hot glue. So silicone would have been okay. With something like this, silicone would have been okay. It would hold it in place and it wouldn't do too much damage to it. And silicone is generally inert, so it's not going to hurt anything. But what they've used there, and that explains why it's come off, they've used the hot glue gun. I can feel it by how hard that adhesive is. And so in a circumstance like this, where they've put a blob of hot glue in 4 places and it's on a mat board, that mat board's going to expand and contract somewhat, and it may just have been the humidity expanding and it's ripped the paper where the hot glue has glued it, because the hot glue is not coming off that drum head. And I'm not going to go scraping that off right now. I'm not going to do anything to that. I don't want to put any heat on there to get it off. I'm going to leave it in that condition. I think I'll take a little photo of it so that the client can see it if they want to take it up with the other framer. Now, the other thing there, this has got to go in alignment. What they were requesting is it has to go in alignment with the poster that goes with it. And I think probably at one point, let's have a look where there's the glue there. Yeah, so they almost had it aligned right, but that was a little bit out of alignment. Glass is okay. There's no conservation on the glazing, but one thing I would say is the glass there is a little bit loose, which is why I could see from the front side, I could see that edge of the glass. So I'm going to get that frame off. I just got to pop this over out of the way for a second so we can move the frame. And then we're going to have a little look at how we would fit it. And what I'll probably do is get another piece of, just put that there for a sec. If you just give me one tick, I'm going to grab another piece of black mat board, because we could actually mount it in there, but where the where the hot glue has actually been, it's torn that mat, so I'm going to have to use another bit. And the other thing I'll show you is we'll probably replace all of that now that I see how bad it is. And I'm probably not going to do all of that replacement today because it's quite an intensive part, but I'll show you how I would do it. I've got some other pieces here that I was going to explain how I'd cover areas where they'd made mistakes, but we're going to have a little look at doing it properly from the start. Just give me a sec. So what I've just grabbed there is a bit of mat board. Normally I'd cut this on a mat cutter, but I'll just use a ruler while we're here today so that we can get this done right now. Let's get a quick look at the size. So I'm just going to measure just quickly across that piece, just 550 by 540. So all I'm doing, I'm cutting up a new piece of black, and that piece is going to become our underscore section. I probably won't trim it the other way at this stage. We'll just trim one piece off. We'll mount the piece. So I'm just cutting this to the general width of the frame, and if I need to, we'll come in and we'll take it down a level when we fit the piece. Put that one down there. I'm going to leave it longer for this at this point in time. I'm not going to trim it back. It is actually sort of a square shape that's in that window there, but the piece, when we build it up, that whole back section is going to have to be built again to be flush anyway. So we're going to need to fill the section that I'm going to remove, and in fact I'm going to remove the whole foam section. That's what the initial thought was. I could reuse it, but even if I reuse it, I'm not particularly happy with what the client's results would be if I just put all that rough bit back in. I can't really put my name back on the back of it and say, hey, we fixed it up and we left all this rough stuff in there. It's a little bit bad. You know, even if we take a little bit of a hit on the cost, I'd rather fix it up for them. So the other thing that I was looking at with this, and I don't want to get this nice new bit dirty, but the other thing that I was looking at with this that is like an absolutely fundamental mistake. And they've cut this mat and they've filled that layer under there. You can see they've filled that layer just with white foam board. So when you're looking from the front, and in fact that's all just going to fall off. There's nothing actually. It's very cheap, double-sided, held together, and a bit of sellotape on the back. But when you're looking in from the front, and if I hold it on an angle like that, I'm sure you can see in there. Can you see that white line? Now, you've got a black box, a black frame, and the black drum head with silver, and all you're seeing is strips in there, and not strips of nice, clean foam board. You're actually seeing pretty rough strips all the way around, and it's like really like a DIY job. So when I first saw that, I thought, well, at the bare minimum, if you were going to do something this way, and I think this is just going to come off, I hope. It's double-sided taped. Yeah, so let's just get this out of there. This they've just hinged. So there's the poster. It's hinged on, and the rest of it is double-sided tape there. There is a little bit of plastic framers tape that they've used. I'm just going to leave that sitting in the frame there out of the way so we can look at this construction. So this is a beauty. They've made all these pieces around here that we're going to sit under the mat board, if you're going to do something like this, I brought some bits out before. If you're going to do something, even if you're going to use white board, in any construction, when you make something that's going underneath the mat board, make each successive layer narrower. So have a wide layer that's actually on the mat itself. Even better if you can bevel cut it. If you bevel cut the foam, and then the next piece sits further back and it's bevel cut, and the next bit sits further back so that it steps back like a little set of steps, when you're looking in from the front, you cannot see it. So one thing is using that. Now the other thing that's so brain dead simple is, why didn't they just use, if they were going to build it up and it's a black box, why, if they did want to use this method, why didn't they just use black foam board? Then at least you'd have a black box inside there. So when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, today I was going to think, could I line the inside of that with black mount board to try and cover up that white part? And I was going to do that, but now that I've got into it and I've seen how rough everything is, this is not good. This has got a bit of tape on the back holding it together here, and this is just on, you know. This here, they've just got wads. They've put a bit of tape. They put a bit of framers tape here, holding these big chunks of what just look like it's just been roughed out, you know, roughly cut. So I'm going to replace, I'll probably fix the other piece too. This is just like what, layer on layer on layer of foam by the look of it. They've just made this big bodgy layer, put it all together in there to fill it up. Whereas we probably would have made a timber frame, quite simple, little black frame in there, the equivalent of this. It would take you a lot of time to do all this stupid bits of foam. Why wouldn't you just make one frame, put the frame in there? You've got a clean black frame. It's going to do the same job as all this rubbish, and it's certainly going to reinforce everything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a wooden frame in there as part of this repair, and I'll replace this bit of board that's here, that they've just got a piece of foam, say, stuck on the back, and this weird join. Anyway, fixing the drum head. So I'm going to put the drum head on to another piece of black mat board there. What we're going to do, we're going to put the drum head onto this new piece of board, and I don't know whether I've shown you these with circular things before, but we're going to be using some of the Mighty Mounts, and the little Mighty Mounts that we're going to use today are a standard one. I just want to have a little look at the size, because with these Mighty Mounts, I'll hold one up to the camera. You've seen these ones. You've seen these before. Little Mighty Mount is a clip, somewhat like so, and they come in different heights up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that, or we're going to use 3 of those to hold this drum head in position. So the way they wanted this to face was the same way as it was on the poster. So I just want to do a quick check to see whether that arrow there was almost down. So the angle that this piece is going to get fitted is something like that. I'm probably going to stick it down on this end, and I want to stick it in the middle. So we're going to do a quick calc. I measured that just for the frame point of view, 550 mil, and I'm not quite sure what this is, I hadn't checked it. 370. So 370 off 550, we got 180, half of 180, 90 mil. So this drum head is going to go in 90 mil from each side. Easiest way for that is we'll just make a small template. So I'm just going to cut that. I'll normally make a mark. So I've just cut myself a little piece of board. I would cut myself a few pieces of board, but I'm just going to use that as a spacer there. So I need 90 from the bottom, 90 from the sides. Actually pretty close there, straight off. So when we get our positioning, at that point we normally draw onto the mat. And I want to use a pencil in this example because you can draw that full circle, or at least draw, that'll be right, give me a sec. So you can draw the full circle, but I'm just going to draw one near the bottom. I want a line just underneath, and it's going to be thirds. And so what I've done there, I've made a pencil mark that's going to be my base piece. I've made two other pencil marks up where I want the other fittings to be. In fact, I'm going to put a whole circle there. You won't see the pencil mark, although we can rub it out before we fit the piece. This I'm just using a little 7B pencil. There is actually a taper under this drum head, so I've got the pencil line just running where you don't see it. But we can see it there. Now normally a pair of compasses would be handy right now to mark your other thirds. I'm going to actually use the drum head itself to mark the position. So I'll just check that we got these. Mark a centre point. So 185. Just want to bisect that centre, and we can get our thirds marked. Yeah, we're pretty good. I was eyeballing that third, but we just get it exactly right. So all I've done is I've made a central point. I'm using the drum head itself, the diameter of it, to mark where the thirds are on this. So we've got a point marked on the base, which is going to be where we're going to put one fitting on the base, and we've got two fittings on the top. Sometimes you could do it where you put the two pieces down the bottom, but generally it'll work with one on the bottom. Now the way these Mighty Mounts work is they have a 3mm or thereabout stud on them, and you make a hole at that point where you're going to put them into the board. Pop this one up out of the way. So at that point, on the bottom, I'm just using a little awl. You may want to use a bigger one that I'm using here. I make a bit of a bigger hole. But I'm just going to put a hole in there, move it around. I don't really want this loose. I want it big enough to take that plug in. So that's pretty good. That's fairly tight. It's going to go in. Just going to double check it. Yeah, so we're in here. Just double checking the positioning. So once you've made your holes, the holes for the Mighty Mounts always go exactly through the centre of the mount. So if we're going to draw a circle, we make that mounting point on there. Now, I'm just going to take an eraser and take out that little line where I made the mark. Not so much the circle, I'm not really fussed about the circle, but where I just did the cross hatch, it may stick out a little bit. So I'm taking that off. Don't want to see that. Maybe I ought to give that a light rub along there. But I don't really want to play too much on the blackboard. So what we've got now, we've got 3 holes positioned, drum head's ready to go. It's going to sit into this positioning. We're going to put our Mighty Mounts in, which these have to go in through the board. I need to get a little bit of pressure on there. And these ones here, they're about 10mm high. They do come in different sizes. Like we generally will buy multi-packs. Here in Australia, Larsen Jewel, Megawood Larsen Jewel are the distributors for those. I've had people ask me before online, and when I've searched for them even myself, I haven't been able to find them under the Mighty Mount brand, but they definitely come under Mighty Mounts. It always has that. I'll hold it up there. So it is a registered trademark. Might be able to get a quick look. So we got Mighty Mounts. Now this one, the instructions for this are out of a coin holder. But basically they'll have one that's for plates, one that we're using today, which is a multi-mount version, multi-purpose, or plate, or spoon, or object. They're an American product. There's not really any other information. There is a knife one, a gun one, and a coin one. And I imagine that Larsen Jewel, possibly in the States, have the distributorship for them, because I haven't been able to find them anywhere other than through them. So these pieces, we want to put the 3 on there. So what we've got there is we've actually got 3 mounts ready to go. I'm going to test the drum head in there. They are not fixed yet, so I'm not going to hold it up or anything, but I just want to see whether I've got the positioning pretty right before I go any further. That's pretty good. Yeah, you need a certain amount of tension in these for them to work, and that's why the positioning of aligning the hole is important. That's why I drew the circle. The hole needs to bisect the circle right on the line. So because when it's in, that center line of it is the center line of the Mighty Mount. So not any bigger. Now when you've done that and you push these through, you want to put on, they have little collars that come with them. These are just like, sort of a bit like how you do some eyelets, you know, like one of those eyelet crimping machines. These are a little sort of split washer, and that split washer goes on the back of the Mighty Mount. And there is a tool that they give you to use with it. Which is this little baby here. just a little black plastic thing. In fact, I've got to check I've got the right one. There are a few different ones in there. Yeah, looking good. So with that, and I like to do it on something a little bit harder, I'm going to put a bit of mat board underneath on this bench. You probably want to work on a slightly more solid surface when you're just pushing these through. You can hold them with your finger from the other side, but they can be a little bit, not sharp, but just, you know, when you were young you just hold onto the things, but nowadays you value your skin a little bit more. Oh, just push that one on. Just need to wiggle it a little bit. I might get a pair of pliers onto it even. Just where I've put that in, I don't want it to move. So I'm just going to hold the Mighty Mount on one side. Yeah, that's worked well. Push in. I'm just holding onto the little Mighty Mount. They will still have a certain degree of flexibility to them once we've... Where did I do those? Terrible, you pick something up and put it down. So especially little metal things. I'll show up the minute I get some more. There we go, there's one. So yeah, a little bit tricky just to get it on in the first place, but once you've got it moving, it grips onto that plastic and you push it down. And you do want to give it a good push, you want it hard down on the mat board itself. And I'll show you what you do, because there is a little bit of excess that always hangs off the back end of these, and you don't want that. Like you need to build a strut, or not a strut, a spacer to hold. So I grab hold of that one again. It's just getting hold of the piece at the right angle. So what we've done there, and come up and have a look. I'm not going to chance the close-up camera the way we're going on some of this stuff. We'll just have a look here. So you can see where I've mounted that little Mighty Mount up on the line, and these are quite stiff now. There's no movement in that. And on the back here, this is where these little metal clips, and you can see how far that sticks out. It's sticking out and poking up out of the board. Well, what we want to do is we cut that off. So where you've got the clip hanging out the back end, you can put that face down, and we use our wire cutters. You don't want to cut it all off, but you can cut it reasonably close. Like these little washers bite into the Mighty Mount itself and hold on quite well. Cut those sections off. Now you still need to, some people would just put a backing behind that and leave that there, and that's okay. Like if you're using, say, 5mm foam board, what you do is you take your piece of 5mm, and if you were going to put this on just as a straight backing on there and not build another spacer for the Mighty Mount, just give it a little push where the Mighty Mount is, and at that point get into the foam and give it a little bit of a crush. Then that hole, it doesn't affect the back of the board. You've got somewhere where you can nest it without actually adding another layer. Otherwise, sometimes when we've got things where we've left this sticking out a little bit further, is we are building up another layer with, say, 3mm foam board all the way around, and then putting the piece over the back. So at that point, after you've put the Mighty mounts on, they're ready to go pretty much. They're pretty strong. We would take our drum head. I'm not going to clean, I'm not going to try and get this old glue off. I just think it's a recipe for trouble to even try touching it. And there's a little bit of, and I think they've got hot glue. I think they've got hot glue on the front here. I just want to see if it actually moves of any sort. Yeah, there's actually a sticky bit of something right here. I think it will have to stay, because I don't really know, without getting into the technicalities of what solvents or anything we could use on that, but that to me is a bit of adhesive, and I'll point it out to them when they come in, because there are a few bits. There's a bit here, there's a bit there, there's a bit there, there's a bit there. It may have, that adhesive may have actually come from inside the mat board there, where someone who has put this on has got little bits of double-sided tape on the back of the mat window, and when this is slid down, the double-sided tape has just, you know when you just touch double-sided tape, it's just left a little sticky mark, and any rubbing of that's just going to make it worse, so we're just going to leave it alone. So this would sit in, and you can see I can put it in two sides, but that third side, it won't go in without a little bit of help. Now, we're not going to force anything, but what happens is the mat board itself is flexible. So I'm able to pick it up and bend the clip back, and then when I turn it round, now what I've got is a drum head mounted on the mat board itself. I'll bring it up, we can have a little look. So we're on this camera right now, but we'll do it on some close-ups. But you can see how the clip itself mounts up onto the piece, and the drum head, when it's in the frame, I just got to be careful to hold it relatively flat. The board will have to be stuck down. When it's in the frame, it's going to sit on that angle like so. And we can actually get this is going to turn around a little bit. I think its position's going to match. Now that way, this is going to hold that piece in position, and it's not going to actually hurt the piece in any way. We haven't put any more glue on there. We haven't done anything that's going to hurt the signatures. They're archival. That's just sitting there. Potentially, we could have used ones that were a little bit smaller, but that is really, it's not going to fall off, and it's not going to go anywhere once it goes into the frame. So next step for me, and we're not going to do that now, but the next step for me is really, which I'll leave him just flat up on there. The next step for me is to get the rest of the foam board off the back of that piece. These things here are going to go in the bin, which is absolutely useless, and I'm going to make a framework that's going to replicate this, or make it out of, say, black 2020 moulding. And there's a little trick that you may want to use, and it's something where this is done that way, and they were using these big metal clips when I initially took them off, and thinking, oh, well, I'll keep those, because when we fit it back up again, if we put another layer of board on there, it almost, you know, that's the perfect height. If it just had if it had the piece of foam board backing that the framer should have put on there, that would work, using those metal clips to hold it all down. But I've got an idea, and the idea is if I use my 2020, I'll cut it back to front, and when I cut it back to front, I'll have the rebate on the outside, so I'll have a very small edge of that 20mm, which I'll probably use 30mm deep, 20mm wide. We cut it back to front. It'll have a rebate on the outside of the frame, not on the inside, so we'll end up with a black lined box. You won't see it. The black the edge of the rebate there will sit lower than the rebate on this frame, and we can then use a normal turn button or a normal small one of these clips. Instead of going up over the back, it'll go down into that little rebate ledge that it makes all the way around. We'll have a solid wooden edge, so it'll all be clean, and then we'll put a backing on the back. So I'm not really going to do that now because you've seen fitting up before. Oh, no sound, gosh. Okay. Have we got any sound there again? Let's have a little look. How's that? Let's see where we're going. Let's just see if we can get some sound back on that main speaker again, or the main microphone. Okay, have we got anything on that one? No, that just crashed it all together. Oh dear. Let's see if we can get that back. Let's have a quick look. Sorry guys, we've had an issue with our sound today with everything we've been doing. We have got some backup recording, so we'll re-edit and we'll give you the content. Okay, how do we go? Have we got some sound there? Okay, there we go. Right, I don't know whether you guys can hear me. I'm not even sure whether you can see me. We seem to have had some real spike issues with things happening today, and just trying to get our system back up and running. See if we got some of you guys there. Okay, Tony, Robert, JB, Arthur. Sorry for this. We've had just an atrocious time with internet connection today, I think, which I seem to have lost most of our chat. If you guys are hearing this, what I'm going to do is I'll wrap it up. We'll re-record that. We've got it on our backup cameras with backup audio, So I'll let you guys know. I may be able to push that back out as a live cast, but more than likely it'll go into the members area. I do have another couple of other quite interesting things that I wanted to show you in relation to, let's just see if we're there. So yeah, I don't know what's gone down today in terms of us losing feed and everything like that. I will send you all a message that'll give you a link where you can get into there again. I just want to see if we can get in and get into the back end of this just quickly, because I can't see any of you in the front there at this time, and we might be on a different stream. That's all. Anyway, hopefully you guys get that little message that I just popped on there. I don't know whether you're getting me. I can't see the stream and I can't see the chat. So what I'm going to do, I'll pull the plug on this broadcast today. We'll touch base via email, and I'll let you know. I'll send you a link where you can get the recording of this so that you're able to see it in high definition. We may rerun this again just a little bit later in the week, as soon as my tech guy can have a look at what's been going on with our internet. So we'll catch you soon. I'm really sorry for the issues that we've had today on this broadcast. We'll catch you soon. Thank you. Oh, good, Maurizio, you got us. Cool. Actually, I'll hang on for 1 sec. I don't know whether you got that. For you guys, if you've got me there, I'm going to pull the plug on today's broadcast because I think we've got both issues. I think the issue is really with our connections. As I say, they've been having all sorts of hassle with basically the national network through Telstra, and we actually run our all the cable pretty much, even though with another provider runs through Telstra, so could be issues there. This I've made backup recording. So what I'll do is I will run another live one, maybe even for people like Maurizio who might do it early in the morning, and we'll come back to this one. We can get those components that you missed out on, and just if there's any questions, by all means, cool. By all means, you can chuck them in the chat there. I'm not going to go on with this one today because I think we might just lose the feed. I'll try and squeeze another special one in for you guys just to make up for the way today's has been travelling. And certainly I'll send you the recording of these key components. So if you need any other information, if you need me to shoot something for you for the next training, I'll try and squeeze another one in between now and the next Framers Club meeting next month. And I've got something that I was going to bring down to show you, but I have a 2-metre snake skin. And the person has brought that into me in the last week, and it was hanging on their back fence. Now, it's got its eyes and tail and everything. It's complete in its entirety, and we're framing that in a shadow box. So what I'm going to do, I'll film you that snake skin framing for you guys. We may do it as a live, and in fact we may do it as a hybrid live where I get some of the parts done beforehand and we can mix it in with a live so that you're able to see all the components of how we handle that snake skin. I've had a brief look at it. It's very fragile, very, very delicate, but it's going to look sensational. They're going to be doing the snake skin say, I'd hate to think where the snake was, because the snake's pretty big. And if that was in your back garden, I think if you had any pets, the pets would soon become the snake's dinner. So we get snakes here in Australia, which is a bit funny. Certainly in our sort of suburban neighbourhood, we'll see both dangerous snakes and harmless ones like some of these pythons, but even these pythons, they get pretty big and they will take your pets. They just strangle them. Anyway, look, sorry for the trouble we've had today. I'll re-edit this, I'll get it out to you guys, and we'll catch you again soon. See you soon.